This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. Coming up on the show, why 38-year-old entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan is about to shake up the US election. We'll take a deep dive into the story rocking Hollywood that rapper Sean Combs, better known as P. Diddy, is the subject of a federal human trafficking investigation after several lawsuits were filed against him. We'll also speak to a professor at the University of Maryland about what caused the Baltimore bridge to collapse so quickly and how locals are holding up after the tragedy. And Queen Camilla has opened up about how Princess Catherine is feeling after receiving messages of support from well-wishers. Our hearts broke on Saturday when Princess Catherine bravely revealed to the world she's battling cancer. And since then, world leaders have been among millions of people who've sent their best wishes to the Princess of Wales. Joining us now is royal commentator Josh Rom. Josh, great to speak with you again. Since Princess Catherine revealed that she's undergoing chemotherapy, we've seen celebrities apologise for engaging in the controversy around her. Finally, it seems like the world is doing what we should have been doing in the first place and just leaving Princess Catherine alone and just offering her support. What's the latest on her condition?
I mean, Gabriella, did I or did I not say on this very programme that it was time to lay off Kate, didn't I?
You did. You did lay off Kate.
And this is the thing, you know, I also said about her marriage to Prince William, how that was strong, despite intense speculation from plenty of late night hosts over in the US, unfounded speculation regarding a previous rumor back from 2018 or 2019. You know, we know now what she has, and she cleared up speculation. But more details are kind of emerging from the way in which she revealed the news, because of course she revealed the news that she has a type of cancer. Again, like His Majesty, we don't know exactly what type of cancer it is, but she revealed the news in an unprecedented video statement. This is unlike anything that the royal family have ever done before. And I think one of the reasons is if she revealed the news in just a written statement like His Majesty the King, even though His Majesty the King has been pictured, people would have, because of the photo controversy, because of the Mother's Day photo controversy, because of the blurry video released by The Sun and TMZ, there were always going to be questions. So it almost felt like Princess Catherine's hand was forced, in that she was forced to reveal the news in this incredibly personal and intimate video. I mean, it was, as statements go, as appearances go, it was absolutely perfection. Like, she did not leave anything off the table except the type of cancer that she has, and she's entitled to keep that private. But that statement was incredibly raw, incredibly emotional. But what I think it's important to note is the tones of optimism that she said in her statement. Now, we know that she said in her own words that she was having preventative chemotherapy treatment and she was waiting to fully recover from her abdominal surgery operation to start that treatment. But the words that really struck me were not just the fact that she said Prince William, her husband, has been such a source of strength and comfort, but actually when she was talking about revealing the news to her three young children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, but she said the words to reassure them, I'm going to be okay, and that I am healthy, and that she's focusing on her recovery in all aspects of her life, from her health to her spirit. So I think, you know, what we're seeing from Princess Catherine from that original statement is there are tones of optimism there that we can look at. And that's, I think, we're starting to see more optimism from the royal family. We know that His Majesty plans to attend a service on Easter Sunday alongside Her Majesty the Queen and other members of the royal family. Now, what we do know about King Charles, I've had sources tell me that they're not as worried about Princess Catherine as they are for the King. Now, they don't expect anything to come in imminently. However, we've seen pictures of the King. He's in good spirits. But of course, he is an old man. It seems as though that maybe the treatment is having an effect on him, as it would do, as is natural. And let's be honest, he is an old man. Old men's or just older bodies won't have the bounce back factor that younger bodies, even middle-aged bodies, would have. So of course, treatment like this was always going to have an effect on the king, even though it is outpatient treatment, even though he's not staying in hospital, he's not having extended stays in hospital. This is, of course, going to have an effect on His Majesty. So my sources aren't saying that it's anything imminently to worry about. And we know from his own statement, from palace sources, and from what we're hearing, that he wants to get back to work as well, that he's raring to go, that he's getting frustrated, not so much with the treatments, but the fact that the treatments are keeping him away from front-facing duty. So I think we're starting to see a real breakthrough of optimism here from the royal family at a time of crisis.
Yeah, and it is such a difficult time for the royal family, but I tell you what, Princess Catherine is an inspiration, bravely revealing to the world that she's going through this cancer battle, and hopefully that is the end of those wild conspiracy theories that were out there and just consuming the internet. But let's discuss
I will
Prince
just
Harry.
say,
Yes?
but I was going to say, before you move on, unfortunately, it's not the end of those conspiracy theories, because we're still seeing conspiracy theories that that the video was somehow AI, and that the daffodils in the background weren't moving correctly. And I mean, I've had some people go so stupid. I've seen some people go, "Where's her mic?" Well, like soap operas in the UK, you don't see actors wearing lapel mics. It's filmed mostly with a boom mic. So, I mean, it's just some of these conspiracy theories. I will say, it frustrates me, because it's almost the fault of the palace, because unfortunately, because they also haven't released the original Mother's Day shot, there is still that element of guessing, and yes, they're being as transparent as they can be, and as clearly as transparent as the royal family want them to be, despite the fact, absolutely and fairly so, that they're of course allowed a degree of privacy. But it just seems like whatever happens, nothing will be enough for these absolute deranged conspiracy theorists online, and it's incredibly aggravating. And imagine if we're feeling like this, imagine what the royal family are feeling like this. We know from sources that that the Prince and Princess of Wales were absolutely devastated by the speculation into their marriage, because as we now know from her own statement and my sources and other sources as well that have spoken out publicly, that could not have been further from the truth. So it just seems like whatever they do, unless she was at this point, it seems as though, unless she is appearing live in a TV studio, completely live, completely unedited, that only then, and even still, I'm sure then even conspiracy theorists will
even
drag
then,
something.
it won't be enough. And some of the theories out there are just so bizarre, and it's quite sickening, really, to be honest. But I do agree with you that the palace really has to take some blame and some responsibility for this, as they really handled the Mother's Day photo so badly, and that's when everyone right around the world felt like they were being lied to. And so they still have not released that original Mother's Day photo. I think we've well and truly moved on from then, but I think all our support needs to be behind Kate, and the fact that there are still theories flying around out there is just absolutely insane. But let's talk about Prince Harry. He's been mentioned in court documents relating to allegations Sean Diddy Combs sexually abused multiple people. A $30 million lawsuit brought by record producer Rodney Jones claims that Diddy's affiliation with high-profile people, such as Prince Harry, gave his actions legitimacy. Now, the American hip-hop mogul, Combs, has been raided by authorities in relation to the allegations, and there is no suggestion that Prince Harry was involved in any of Sean Combs' alleged wrongdoing, and Mr. Combs has also denied all allegations. Josh, can you talk to us about how Prince Harry has been dragged into this?
So it is a $30 million lawsuit, as you said in the link there, by the producer Rodney Little Rod Jones against Diddy. And I've got some of the text here. They say that guests were drawn to alleged sex trafficking parties due to, quote, access to celebrities such as famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries like British Royal Prince Harry. That's what the court documents say. Now, Prince Harry is not named as a defendant in this case. He is also, it is a 73-page document. These court documents are 73 pages. Prince Harry is literally only named just this once. There is absolutely no suggestion of wrongdoing by Prince Harry. He's not a defendant. What we know about past affiliations, we know that Prince William and Prince Harry previously met Diddy, as well as just now disgraced rapper Kanye West in 2007 at a post-concert party where they thanked all of those that took part in the Concert for Diana benefit that took place at Wembley Stadium on the 1st of July 2007. Now, that would have been Princess Diana's 46th birthday, and the 31st of August that year would have marked 10 years since her tragic passing back in 1997 at the Alma Tunnel in Paris. We don't know if Prince Harry has had any contact or any affiliation with Diddy whatsoever since that time. There is a picture circulating on the internet of Prince Harry being pictured with Diddy as well as Kanye West. So I think he's been dragged into this. I think this is unfortunately death by association here. The fact that he's named is a big thing. But as I said, he's not a defendant. He hasn't been accused of wrongdoing. But one can't help but wonder, because, and I say wonder, I don't want to speculate into any of this case. I mean, one can't help but wonder what Meghan Markle would be feeling about this. Meghan Markle being the feminist that she claims to be on her official website, bearing in mind she's about to launch, or she has launched, a lifestyle brand at the time where the royal family are in crisis. But one can't help but wonder what she would think, because she claims to be such a feminism. Her Archetype podcast was a feminist podcast. It's all about female empowerment, which, by the way, is a good thing. And I'm absolutely not rolling my eyes or turning my nose up whatsoever. I am a feminist at heart as well. Any sort of female empowerment, I think, is always an amazing thing. But one can't help but wonder what she would be thinking about this. The fact that Prince Harry, at least, bearing in mind, okay, he's mentioned once in this, are not accused of any wrongdoing, but the fact that he has been pictured with a rapper that has been accused of sexual abuse and sex trafficking allegations he denies, as well as taking a picture with someone who is also accused of being a virulent anti-Semite as well. This is obviously not the best look for Prince Harry. And that's the thing. I think it's not quite Prince Andrew level. This is not Prince Andrew level allegations, not by any stretch of the imagination. But this is once again the royals being mentioned in a high-profile lawsuit. The last time we've seen this was Prince Andrew mentioned, of course, in the lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre, a lawsuit that he settled, a lawsuit, by the way, in which he did not take or admit to any liability, and he still to this day disputes any and all allegations of wrongdoing. I think that's also important to state. But I think this is just, it's not necessarily the best look for the royal family at this time, when we see the Princess of Wales and His Majesty the King both going through cancer treatment. It's not necessarily the best look. And I also think after the whole Prince Andrew saga, and we're about to relive that in the brand new Netflix movie Scoop, that the royals, the lesser royals, might need to be a little bit more careful going forward with maybe who they are associating with.
Yep, you make a great point, and it will be interesting to hear what Meghan Markle thinks of all this. Not sure if we'll get the answer. But as you mentioned, Prince
I think we will.
Prince Andrew's car crash interview with the BBC Newsnight host has inspired a Hollywood film called Scoop, as you mentioned. Let's take a look.
The story won't be him. It'll be us.
Your Royal Highness. Tomorrow night, in an unprecedented interview, we will hear from the Duke himself.
You know, I thought that all went very well.
All across the world, every paper, on every news channel, this is the story.
Go away!
This is only going to get bigger.
This interview, does it matter?
Yeah, it matters.
Josh, what can we expect from Scoop? Is it going to be as gripping as that interview?
It's actually going to be even more gripping than the interview. I have seen the film. I'm not actually allowed to say too much about it because the embargo for reviews is not quite up just yet. However, I was at the world premiere tonight in London where the stars of the film walked the red carpet. We saw Gillian Anderson. She plays Emily Maitlis in this. We've got Billie Piper from Doctor Who fame. She plays Sam McAllister, who is the esteemed producer who secured this bombshell interview for BBC Newsnight. We also saw Keely Hawes, who plays Amanda Thirsk, Prince Andrew's private secretary at the time. And we also saw Rufus Sewell, who plays Prince Andrew in this movie as well. And an absolutely, I say this with, and I really mean these words, an absolute bombshell portrayal of Prince Andrew. This film, it is a real nail biter. I can't say too much about it, but what I can say is that there are the approaches that it takes with this. It's quite surprising. It's not necessarily a straightforward approach that you would expect from this film, but the tone is absolutely brilliant. We're reliving it in retrospect, which kind of gives us a whole different angle to it that we may or may not have realized. And we realize also just how shocking it is another time around, the fact that it's being played by such brilliant, talented actors. But it also kind of you get the impression of really what Prince Andrew was thinking, and we get a real insight into his personality. Yes, parts of this film are fictionalized, so of course it's not meant to be entirely accurate. It is dramatized. They do take artistic licenses, but we're seeing two sides of the institution. We're getting an insight into the BBC programme that secured this interview and the amazing story of the producer Sam McAllister who secured that interview. But we're also getting an insight into the institution, the way in which they look, the way in which they think, the way in which they've interacted with the media, the kind of, again, thinking comm strategy. And we're reliving, as we just saw in the trailer, the fact that Prince Andrew, after that interview, he was absolutely delighted with it. He says, oh, it all went very well. Sam McAllister herself has recounted stories about how straight after the interview, how she spoke to Prince Andrew's equerry, and the equerry said, oh, wasn't he wonderful? And Sam McAllister replied with all sincerity going, yes, he was. Of course, in a completely different way, because he was wonderful in another way. It was a compelling piece of television. And this is, without giving anything away, this is an absolutely compelling, nail-biting, but also an incredibly surprising movie. But again, a movie which might not be necessarily the best movie to be released for the royal family at this time, given the crisis that they're facing. However, I would say this doesn't exactly reveal anything more about Prince Andrew that we didn't know before. There's no entirely bombshell revelations to take from this. But what we do see is an incredible portrayal, incredible actors, telling a side of the story that we might not realize, gaining a new appreciation for the work that went into that interview, whilst also reliving just the absurdity of the things that were said in that interview, from the no sweat to the pizza express and joking, from the unbecoming, bombshell after bombshell after bombshell interview that made front page news across not even just the UK, but across the world.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It was one of the most compelling interviews of all time. Finally, Josh Rom, we did touch on this, but I'd just love to get a bit more of your thoughts. While the royal family are in this vulnerable position with the health battles of King Charles and Princess Catherine, we've seen Meghan Markle being quite busy promoting her new luxury lifestyle brand. Some are saying she's trying to reinvent herself as a version of Gwyneth Paltrow. Can you talk to us about what Meghan Markle's been up to with her new brand and what she's planning on selling?
So we've heard rumblings of a lifestyle brand relaunch. Of course, she was famous before she married Prince Harry for the TIG back in the day. And I remember watching clips of Meghan Markle on some of the US talk shows, the morning talk shows, where she used to cook up meals from her website. I think this could be a really good thing for Meghan, actually, because I just hope that she doesn't have any subliminal messages where she trashes the royal family ever in subtle ways. That's what I'm not hoping for, because the thing is, I think we all want, especially in the UK, we just want, if not Meghan and Harry to disappear, we just want them to be happy, to stop trashing the institution again and again and again. So if this is going to make Meghan happy, if this is going to be a way for them to earn money, to pay for the upkeep of their own security out in the States, and if they do not trash the royal family at all in this, I think, well, fair play to you, Meghan. You're just doing you. You're going out there and making a living for yourself away from the royal family. That's great. Maybe involve Prince Harry. Maybe give us insight into what you like away from the spotlights, to what you guys actually, what your lives are actually like away from the cameras, aside from just trashing the royal family. I think this could be a good thing, but the timing of it, I think, suggests a number of things, because of course, I think it suggests either two things, because Meghan and Harry, they're reportedly to be out of the royal family. When I say out, as in if you're out of that family, you know you're out. You've been cut off. So we're unsure currently of Meghan and Harry's situation when it comes to communications with his father, the king, and also Prince William and the Princess of Wales, especially with Prince William. It's reported that the brothers still very much have a strained relationship. That's what my sources are also telling me, that their relationship is still incredibly strained. And whilst the king is communicating more with Prince Harry, the same cannot be said for Prince William. So they either could have launched this to take advantage of the royals being in this crisis state that they are, and take advantage of that and explore that lifestyle option, explore that brand option whilst the royals are facing this. Or this could suggest that actually they always plan to launch it at this time, but it's incredibly bad timing because they're not in communication with the family much at all. They really don't know what's going on. So they launch this at an awkward time for the family. So I think those are the two options that we see from this brand. But this could be a good thing for Meghan Markle, and hopefully this could mean that the Sussexes might go down a more positive direction. Because let's be honest, I know we criticize them, and I think criticize them fairly for their actions, specifically when it relates to the royal family, but actually we all just want the best for them. They are humans at the end of the day, just trying to live their lives, and we all want the best for them. We want them to find peace. So hopefully this, and also, unlike Netflix, unlike Spotify, this is an area in which Meghan Markle has that experience. She's already done this to reasonable success, arguably a bit more successful than her actual acting career. So actually this could be a better move for Meghan, moving down a more positive route.
Josh Rom, brilliant to speak with you. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time as always. We'll speak to you next week.
Speak to you next week, Gabriella.
Prince Harry's name has been mentioned in court documents related to allegations Sean Diddy Combs sexually abused multiple people. A $30 million lawsuit brought by record producer Rodney Jones claims Diddy's affiliation with high-profile people such as Prince Harry gave his actions legitimacy. Now, there's no suggestion that Prince Harry was involved in any of Sean Combs' alleged wrongdoing. And Mr Combs has also denied all allegations. For a deep dive into this story, we're joined by News Corp columnist Angela Mollard. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of this story and the fact that Prince Harry's now been tied to it?
Yeah, and he will not want to be in the same sentence as somebody who's now being accused of sexual trafficking and allegations of sexual assault. It's really interesting. We do know that people in power attract other people in power by their being adjacent to people like Prince Harry. But if you were Harry right now, with what's going on in your world, with your family across the ocean, this is absolutely the last thing he needs. As you say, there is no wrongdoing, it's just that he's been named. But of course, he knows, the two know each other from the Diana concert back in 2007. It'll be interesting to see whether or not there has been any communication, friendship behind the scenes. We're not aware of that. But if there is, there may be a further spotlight on Harry.
Yeah, that's right, because it's not clear whether they have stayed in touch after meeting back in 2007, where they were photographed together. I was just speaking to a royal commentator who put it to us. We imagine how Meghan's feeling, seeing as well that Prince Harry has been photographed with P. Diddy. I know.
Look, it's just not a good look, is it? Look, these are allegations at this stage. We know there's been these raids on his home. Of course, there's allegations from his former partner. They settled out of court, but that is now, of course, coming to the front again. And it's really interesting to reflect on how men or people in power since Me Too in 2017, it's, sort of being gently undone, or in this case, there's a whole lot more to play out here. But Harry will very much want his name not to be attached to this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's a difficult time for the royal family, as we know at the moment. But in a heartwarming gesture, we've seen the Queen open up about how Princess Catherine is feeling after finally receiving lots of messages of support from well-wishers. What has the Queen had to say?
Isn't it a difference what a week makes? I know that where the story was going and where it is now a week later. Camilla has come out and said she was at an event and she was saying that Catherine has been thrilled by the well-wishers, and we know that they have been completely overwhelmed, as Charles was when he talked about the fact that he had cancer, and then the cards and the well-wishers that have come in. There is enormous goodwill towards the royal family. But what I think is really interesting is what we're seeing emerging as a new Fab Four. So there was the Fab Four, apparently, with Harry and Meghan and William.
That didn't last long.
That was a very short-lived
maybe not a Fab Four
alliance. Yeah, I know. It was a fragment of time, that one. But this is interesting, and I think we need to look forward to what will come as a result of this, the closeness between the two couples, Charles and Camilla, and Kate and William, as a result of this shared experience. Everyone's talking about the slimmed-down monarchy, how it's overstretched, are they in crisis? Actually, there could be this really tight-knit group of 4 principals at the centre of the monarchy going forward, which could be very dynamic and powerful in the future.
That is such a good point. And I suppose, as you say, it's amazing what a difference a week makes. More broadly, what do you make of how this controversy has been handled, the roller coaster that it appears the world has been on, where so many of us have been guilty about speculating how Princess Catherine has been during this time, and then she so bravely revealed to the world that she has been battling cancer and undergoing chemotherapy. What are your thoughts on the whole story as it's emerged really over the past few months?
I think we're all examining our consciences, and I think I'm examining mine for the first time really since the death of Diana, which I covered when I worked in the UK during the 90s. I was there for that. We were at our desks that entire day and the week that followed before her funeral. And there was a lot of soul searching, both privately, among people, among journalists, among people in the public, how they had consumed information. And I think we're there again. People are thinking about what they see on social media. Are they liking it? Are they clicking it? They know the algorithm works, that if you keep looking at it or you seek more of it, you'll be fed more of it. Is that making you feel good? And at the heart of this, the royal family has never looked more like a family and less like an institution. They look vulnerable. They are vulnerable. They're just like us. And I think in appreciating that they are people just like us, it causes us to adapt how we consume this material. And I think that's a good thing. I think we should always be examining. Yes, there's structures in place, Press Complaints Commission, rules and regulations around how we report on people. But in terms of not just mainstream media and legacy media, but the social media and that enormous growth, it's going to take us as consumers of that to change it, because those algorithms won't change themselves.
It's such a good point. And I think so many people got so swept up in the story and the controversy around it, and people seem to forget that there was a human being that is now battling cancer.
And we also need to sometimes sit with uncertainty, with court cases, with criminal, the missing Samantha Murphy. What fills that void now, because we're so 24/7 news aligned, is that we're not prepared to sit and wait for something to unfold. Police work takes time. It takes time for a mother to tell her children that she has cancer, and actually taking time and being prepared to sit there with a bit of uncertainty is a good human response.
Yeah. Well, look, moving away from the royals now, according to Variety, the Will and Jada Pinkett Smith Family Foundation is poised for closure due to a sharp decline in donations following Will Smith's headline-making slap of Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars. Are you surprised to see that this charity may be in decline or maybe closing?
I'm surprised it's still even going after that slap. That man should have been arrested for assault. It was an appalling situation. I know Chris Rock didn't bring allegations against him, but the police had the right to charge him with assault. He was on a world stage. What's really sad about this story is that the benefactors of this charity, which incidentally has seen an 83% drop in donations. So it was pulling in 2 million at its height, and now it's down into the low 100,000s, I think a couple of 100,000s. Big supporters like American Airlines have pulled their donations. And you think about the people that were the recipients of this, that's a real shame. But it shows you're not protected as a celebrity. You are you're is open to public lack of support if you're an ordinary person doing something. And, that shouldn't have happened how it did. He should have been arrested.
Yeah, and there are consequences, and we're seeing that play out now, even though he wasn't arrested. And bringing it back home now, the New South Wales government says it's deeply concerned about the state's festival scene after this year's cancellation of Splendour in the Grass. Organisers say the cancellation is due to unexpected events, adding to a string of other post-COVID cancellations. Angela, are you sad to see that Splendour's cancelled?
It's a real shame. We want our arts and music culture to thrive. They had great headline acts. Kylie Minogue. Who wouldn't want to go and see her? It's incredible, but it does force us to rethink, because it's not the first one to be cancelled. There's been a string of festivals that have been cancelled. Look, I think it has to go back to the grassroots in terms of when are these festivals held? Are they held at opportune times? I know that it's about access to big acts and celebrities, particularly when they're working to a Northern Hemisphere calendar. A lot of them are doing Glastonbury and Latitude Festival in the Northern Hemisphere, that sort of thing. To get access to them, we have to put them at times that suit them rather than us. But perhaps it requires some consolidation, some thinking. And just listening to the bosses of these festivals talking, I just don't know if they're really on the front foot in terms of modern management practices, about pulling in sponsorship, about the threat of AI that is going to increase the vulnerability of these sorts of actual live events. I just think the whole marketplace has to pivot, adapt, start thinking in a much more sort of savvy entrepreneurial way, while, of course, taking care of our artists. I mean, there are a lot of people that support the infrastructure, the food vendors, the sound guys, the stage people. There's a lot of people around a festival who will now not be earning an income. But I also think we have to look at the fact that cost of living has having a huge impact on how people are choosing to spend their money, particularly if weather events like we saw in Melbourne with the heat, like we've seen in the past with the Blues Festival and rain. Your car gets stuck, you've paid $300-400 for a ticket, you can't get home, you're wet, it's miserable. There is a lot to be said that people will not be buying a ticket when they think that could be the outcome.
Angela Mollard, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. It's been brilliant to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Maryland State Police has confirmed they've recovered 2 bodies from the wreckage of the Baltimore bridge collapse. This is the moment the bridge went down after a cargo ship struck a support pillar.
Yes, sir. Our unit's going to arrive over here at at the FBA headquarters. Our CP2 is around your location now. He just arrived. You can liaison with him.
Divers searching the wreckage have recovered the black box from the ship which crashed into it. Audio has emerged of emergency workers, which reveals discussions about grabbing those on the bridge moments before the collapse.
I need one of you guys on the south side, one of you guys on the north side, hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching that just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic. Yeah, if we can stop traffic, just make sure no one's on the bridge right now. I'm not sure where. There's a crew up there. We might want to notify whoever the foreman is, see if we can get them off the bridge temporarily.
Once you get here, I'll go grab the workers on the Key Bridge and then stop the outer loop.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Joining us now is Professor Niata Okai, Chair of the A. James Clark School of Engineering at the University of Maryland. Professor, thank you so much for your time. Firstly, how are you? The footage is shocking to see. What was your reaction to it?
Well, the first thing which came to my mind is the people working there, because we have maintenance workers and those people who are working the night shift. So it was very, very emotional and a very sad situation, you know. And this happened in the early hours of the morning where most of us were sleeping. And when we wake up, we heard this news. So this is a very sad moment for us, and then the state of Maryland, and then the nation as a whole. Yeah.
It's an incredibly sad incident and situation. We feel for you. Can you explain to us how and why the bridge collapsed so quickly?
Well, the bridge collapsed because of accidents. It's not that the bridge is very bad. The structural integrity and then the superstructure is very good, you know, satisfy all standard and specification. But considering the load of the container ship, there's no way the bridge was, will handle such a force, you know. And when such a container ship hit 99% of bridges in the world or in the US, there will be a destruction. So this is not the design or not the bridge, but just the sheer load of the container ship, which the bridge was not designed for, you know. Yeah. But again, one of the things we have to really learn from this is that there are what we call cascade effects. This accident has spilled over to other things. For example, it has changed all the transportation network around the area. And then the bridge itself is used as a way of transporting hazardous material. So we have to find a new place or new route in order to transport these materials. And also, we have to use 2 tunnels. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, if you could just expand on how that is going to impact the transportation and the supply chains.
Exactly. Yeah, because the bridge takes around 33,000 vehicles a day, we have to reroute this traffic to 2 tunnels, right? But the tunnels, you cannot transport hazardous materials through those tunnels. So again, this has to find a different route whereby it will disrupt both the traffic patterns around the area. When we are talking about the supply chain, the Port of Baltimore is very critical to the US, you know, within the East Coast. And then where we have container traffic, shipment and other things. And this is going to affect the material supplies, you know, around the area. Knowing that the airport is where we do get most of our trucks and vehicles from international countries. So this is going to have major effects, you know. But one of the things this gives us an idea is that we have to look at infrastructure, whether transportation, ports and everything, as a system, so that when there's a problem with one part of the system, it does not have this cascade effect in other parts of the system. So that we will try to design more of a what we call resilient system, where we can return to the normal function of the system. Right now, US will be able to construct the bridge, but we have to think further what has happened to the transportation network. And even this is going to affect the whole population there. You know, Baltimore has been tough in terms of economic situation. It's working now. Now that we have this problem, we have to think about the families and everything. The port itself provides jobs for about 15 people, just the job. And then around, there are more, around 90,000, which indirectly depend on the port. And this will have real economic effect in the area.
Absolutely. Looking at this incident, how can we ensure that this doesn't happen again in other parts of America? And how likely is it that we could see another incident like this?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is that we have to think about the human aspect, because there was a, what do you call it, power failure, what I learned from the ship and other things. The ship has some alert system, but I think we should have design new infrastructure where there should be also alert to guide when the ship is approaching like a pillar or column or piers where they are not supposed to be. But then this is a special case. We know that there are big container ships being produced or being manufactured every time. We have to have more innovation in order to avoid this type of occurrence. One cannot say whether we can have total 100% proof, but I think with the new technologies and everything, we'll be able to minimize this. And then with the right human training and everything, we should be able to handle this in future. And I think this incident, although it's very bad, we are going to learn a lot in designing or working with our bridges and then the new emerging big, huge container we are having now. But we cannot totally 100% prove. We have to be, innovation. Innovation will help, how to identify some of these issues or these problems as they are carrying heavy loads, Yeah.
Absolutely. And just finally, my heart goes out to every family that has been impacted by this tragedy. How are people holding up where you are?
Well, people are doing very well. We are very strong here. Right now we want to take, the families are very critical for us, especially those who have lost their lives, and then people who are mourning. But the governor and then the president have showed the nation that we are going to rebuild, and I believe that we are going to do that. And then all people are putting their hands on deck, whatever they can do in order to get this problem, both emotionally and what we can do to bring back the port. Because, the port is just it's a strong livelihood, not only for the state, but the whole of the U.S. And then we want to get this going. It's a very difficult time, but I think with time, we should be okay.
Well, we are sending you our thoughts and our strength. Professor Niata Okai from the University of Maryland, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here on Power Hour. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
A New York appeals court has agreed to reduce former US President Donald Trump's $454 million civil fraud case to $175 million. Now, Donald Trump has 10 days to pay the bond if he wants to avoid having his assets seized by authorities. Joining us is Professor Joseph Siracusa. Joe, great to see you. Can you talk to us about how the court has reached this decision?
Good morning. Well, the court found the $454 million bond excessive. Actually, it's probably unconstitutional. And so they decided to split the difference. They made it $175 million. Now, look, Trump could have written a check for the $454 million, or one of his golfing buddies could have written the check, but he didn't want to do that. He's also got $100 million in bond on some defamation cases, so he's got a lot of money tied up. But he's a billionaire; he can afford these kinds of things. The thing is, he wants to keep the court that has charged him. He wants to keep him on the back foot and keep the campaign running. So he'll come up with the $175 million. Now, the deal is, if he hadn't had the money, if he couldn't arrange it, and then Letitia James, the Attorney General, could start closing down on his properties and seizing his bank accounts and the rest of it. And then if he won the appeal, Gabriella, then he'd come back and he'd have to find a lock for the door of the Trump Tower, because she could have sold it by then. So she could have done terrible damage. She wanted to, as a matter of fact. So I would say that in this case, Donald Trump has actually got a break.
Donald Trump is reportedly turning to religion for cash by selling Bibles as Easter approaches. Donald Trump on Tuesday endorsed country singer Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA Bible on his Truth Social platform. Let's take a look.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood, who doesn't love his song God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our Founding Father documents, yes, the Constitution, but also the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. And I think you all should get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible now and help spread our Christian values with others.
Well, it's his favourite book, apparently. Joe, what do you make of it?
Oh, look, Gabriella, I've been around a long time. Biden's my 14th president. This is pretty cynical. Here we have a guy who's selling a patriotic Bible. And, of course, the Bible has no claim on any nationality or anything like that. And, you know, he sold his baseball cards. That is, he sold these sort of like baseball cards. And, you know, he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, to give you an idea. This guy's got a lot of guts about this kind of thing. He'll sell anything. And, of course, you know, as P.T. Barnum once said over 100 years ago, you can always find a sucker to buy something. And I would buy it just for the souvenir value, because when Donald Trump's star has eclipsed, I mean, everything he was trying to sell or do will be very interesting for historians and for people who collect these kinds of things.
That's true. Could be a good investment. Let's look at relations between the USA and Israel. It appears that domestic political pressure has put a bit of a divide between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. Where do you see this going?
I don't want to mince words on this, Gabriel. U.S.-Israeli relations have broken down. I mean, what's happened the last week, the abstaining in the UN Security Council about this ceasefire is the end of the line. I mean, they have nothing further to talk about, you know. And Netanyahu is going to do his own thing. He's going to initiate an offensive in Rafah. He's going to let the aid in when he feels like it, as a matter of fact, and that he doesn't believe in a two-state solution. And he frankly doesn't care what anybody says. And, you know, at the end of the day, this may not save Netanyahu's political career. This may not save any lives in the Gaza area. Might not even save Joe Biden's presidency. But of course, you know, Israeli and U.S.-Israeli relations will never be the same again. We're back to where we were 70 years ago. Everyone's going to have a close look at each other and wonder what's in it for each other. And of course, the American Jewish community, those who are politically active, don't know what to do next because Netanyahu has let them down. And so this is something that historians like myself one day would write, you know, in a chapter called The Great Departure, because this is the end of the line in terms of the Biden administration and the Netanyahu government.
Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has named Silicon Valley attorney and entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan as his vice presidential pick at a campaign rally on Tuesday. Joe, can you talk to us about Nicole Shanahan? Who is she? What do we need to know about her?
Well, she's if she were a horse in a Melbourne Cup, I'd be putting a lot of money on her. She's about 12-1 to help this guy win the presidency or come very close. Look, she's got the poverty story. You know, her mother was Chinese, her father was Irish, had trouble holding a job kind of thing. And she went to school and then she made a lot of money. She's a technologist, she's a scientist, she's an entrepreneur, etc. She's worth billions of dollars. She paid for Robert Kennedy's $4 million ad during the Super Bowl, and she's gotten very excited. Now, look, I started watching the launch, which is 3 hours yesterday. I couldn't stop watching, Gabriel. This thing is dynamic. She's going after the people who poison American children with their lousy food. She's going after the health industry that doesn't do much for them. She's going after the big pharma that doesn't do anything for anybody. I mean, she's gone after corruption. I mean, this Kennedy campaign is a real sleeper. And I know now why the Democrats and Republicans tried to kill it. It represents, or this guy's presidential run represents about 24% of the American people who vote. That would make him the largest political party in America. Now, what your viewers probably don't know is, even if we let's get past the idea of spoiling the election for Biden or Trump. I think, and I like to predict here that I think we got a real possibility here, or probability, that we may have to go to the House of Representatives. I think there's enough strength behind Nicole Shanahan and Robert Kennedy Jr. to probably block Biden or Trump from getting enough votes in the Electoral College. Now, the Electoral College has 580 votes. You need 270 to become president of the United States. If you don't get it, then it goes to the House of Representatives, and they vote in the top 3 people. Then after that, if they can't get a decision, the president becomes a caretaker till January, and then I think they could vote for anybody they want. So this has happened in American life before, where elections have been thrown into it. And look, this is really about the intelligence of the American people. I studied the crowd at this launch. They're young and they're old, they're black and they're white. You know, they're Indians, American Indians, Indians from India, and they got everybody is represented there, as a matter of fact. And these are people who are disgusted with what's happening in American life, and they're interested in renewing the soil and restoring faith in American government. These people are typical of what we call the progressives at the turn of the 19th, early 20th century. That is, these are people who are trying to return government to the people. They see corporate greed and political corruption as at the center of American life right now. And I swear I can't disagree with them about what they're going after. These are kind of the very sophisticated version of what Bernie Sanders was trying to do. And look, they're not going to take any votes away from the Republicans. They're going to take votes away from the Democrats. Robert Kennedy Jr., was a Democrat. His whole family was a Democrat. He said 5 members of his family actually work for Biden today. And of course, people are trying to say he's kind of a crazy man. He's not crazy at all. He's been fighting the establishment all of his life, and I followed Robert Kennedy Jr.'s career, Robert Kennedy's father's career, very closely when I was a young man in college, and we were all politically active. This guy's the real deal, and he's coming after them. And you know what? I tell you what, don't underestimate the American public. I mean, they may look like they're going along with the circus, but they may surprise you on that second Tuesday in November.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see. But I also just want to ask you, what impact do you think Nicole Shanahan is going to have? Is it really going to shake up this election?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, when you have a good look at her, she's 38 years old. She's quite earnest. She puts her money where her heart is, as a matter of fact. She actually produced that movie, Common Ground, Kiss the Ground, about renewing American soil and that kind of thing. It's a good indicator of what she's doing. But look, she's more effective. I'm not going to say she's smarter than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is pretty smart, but she doesn't have I think the nous to go much further than that. But this woman is a technologist. She knows how to go from A to B and get things done. And she's a performer. She gets in front of that stage. And let's face it, American television, like American politics, like Australian politics today, it's about whether you're telegenic. If you can't perform on a television screen, you're going to look pretty bad and do pretty poorly. And I tell you what, the screen loves her. She's the real deal. And I tell you what, people who estimated these folks are in for a big surprise.
Okay, Professor Joseph Siracusa, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Really appreciate getting your insights and analysis as always.
Okay, thank you.
And that is it for Power Hour. Thank you for your company. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.